Mail-in ballots. He was fine with it.
Well, it was because his Republican strategists were panicking because they realized that they were going to lose without getting those mail-in ballots now. And I would imagine this time around, those same Republican strategists are also panicking because if he goes out there and starts to spread the word that mail-in ballots aren't going to work, this is going to be a real problem in the midterms.
Sam Seder of the Majority Report with Sam Seder was a guest on Abby Phillip's CNN show. And together, Sam Seder and Abby Phillip got to double team two MAGA clowns on Abby's show over Donald Trump's recent declaration that he's going to do an executive order to ban mail-in voting. So why don't we take a look at these clips from CNN with Abby Phillip, Sam Seder, and the rest, and I'm going to have some opinions that I'll add in there, but let's get into it together.
Tonight, Donald Trump plays a throwback, declaring that he'll lead a movement to eliminate mail-in ballots.
Mail-in ballots are corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots. And we, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots. We're going to start with an executive order that's being written right now by the best lawyers in the country to end mail-in ballots because they're corrupt. And you know that we're the only country in the world, I believe, I may be wrong, but just about the only country in the world that uses them because of what's happened. Massive fraud all over the place.
Mail-in ballots are not corrupt. Fraud rates in federal elections are tiny, and dozens of countries use mail-in voting, despite what Trump claims. So why is the president suddenly so amped up about this again? Well, apparently someone got in his ear. Someone with a history of fair elections and a wealth of knowledge when it comes to election integrity.
Vladimir Putin, smart guy, said you can't have an honest election with mail-in voting. And he said there's not a country in the world that uses it now.
Yes, Mr. President, he would know because you'll recall that Vladimir Putin changed Russia's constitution to remain in power. Many of his opponents are either dead or in prison or in exile. Russia is notorious for vote tampering, restrictions on monitors, and rampant voter intimidation. And yes, Russia has interfered with America's elections. But perhaps the most important point is that it's unclear what the administration could actually do to end mail-in voting, since that power belongs to the states. Just ask the Constitution. Joining us in our fifth seat at the table is Sam Seder, host of the Majority Report. I don't know if President Trump forgot that he did this, but let me just play it. This is September 2024, about a year ago, when he said this to his own supporters.
You know that absentee ballots are about to go out in North Carolina? In other words, it's time to start thinking about let's vote. So important. This will be the most important election in the history of our country. So whether it's mail-in ballots, early voting, voting on the day, you got to get out and vote. We want to save our country. We're the only one going to save it. That other group of people, they're going to destroy our country. We can't let that happen. Go out and vote for Trump.
Mail-in ballots. He was fine with it.
Well, it was because his Republican strategists were panicking because they realized that they were going to lose without getting those mail-in ballots now. And I would imagine this time around, those same Republican strategists are also panicking because if he goes out there and starts to spread the word that mail-in ballots aren't going to work, this is going to be a real problem in the midterms for those Republicans. Plus the fact that he has no authority to do this. I mean, he tried to pass he wrote up an executive order a couple months ago to deal with the voting, and he got shot down by two different federal judges. So there's really there's no path for him here, and it's sort of fascinating that all it takes is one suggestion from Putin. I mean, what were they doing talking about 2020 during these meetings? Like, he's like a cat. It's like no object permanence here.
Where were the staff to remind the president that it's actually not true what he claimed, which is that the federal government let me just read it actually. Remember, the states are merely an agent for the federal government in counting and tabulating the votes. They must do what the federal government, as represented by the President of the United States, tells them for the good of our country to do. That is not at all what the Constitution says. You know that because you're a conservative.
Abby,
Sam Seder is absolutely right here. So Donald Trump has made no bones about the fact that he admires dictators like Vladimir Putin, right? And actually dislikes our allies like Canada. So, but he says, what we should really do is our elections should be more like Putin has in Russia, which we know are not free and fair. And our president, the president of the United States, who cozies up to and admires dictators and spurns our allies, is saying that we should make our elections here in America more like Vladimir Putin's elections in Russia.
I agree with you. States have a huge role to play when it comes to elections. We also know that in 2020, as a result of the COVID pandemic, a lot of states went very aggressively in the direction of mail-in ballots.
Which they are entitled to do because they are in charge of the time, manner of the elections. They are in charge of that.
Even the U.S. Election Assistance Commission has studied mail-in ballots and said that there are a certain percentage, I believe like 500,000, that probably aren't ultimately delivered to their final destination. So I'd put this question to all of you. If you won the New York lottery, would you mail in your $1 million winning lotto ticket, or would you want to take it physically to the office to cash it in? I think if anybody wants to ensure that their vote is counted, the best way to do it. Well, then what about
that was a terrible analogy.
What about the Democrat Attorney General of New Jersey, who just an hour from here in Paterson, New Jersey, there was corruption and they're investigating voter fraud because there was a politician who used mail-in ballots to try to steal the election.
So voting is like I like the lottery. Let's talk about why that analogy was just terrible.
And of course, this MAGA guy, if Donald Trump were saying exactly the opposite, that's what he would be touting, right? We saw the clip earlier in the video that Donald Trump was saying the opposite. We need the mail-in voting, and now he's saying no, we can't. We can't have mail-in voting. These MAGA guys just parrot whatever Donald Trump says. They don't have any scruples. They don't have any morals. They're just falling in line with whatever the dear leader dictates, and they're gonna just parrot those talking points, and that's it. And they do it with this sort of, they try and make it sound reasonable, right? A lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. And it's a tactic that they now have everybody falling in line, trying to make this other alternate reality sound reasonable. But it's really all just trickle down from whatever this delusional orange baloney brain comes up with.
So like voting is a right and playing the lottery is a privilege, right? Those are two vastly different things. And the right means that you should make it free and fair. Everyone should have access to it. We should actually be trying to make voting as easy as possible so that we're more inclusive. Things like Oregon is what we should be talking about, where they have Tobias Reed and automatic voter registration. That's where we should be going with this, not necessarily trying to crack down on it. Yes, we want to eliminate voter fraud, but if we want to go back to 2020, and the great irony in this, and I haven't heard neither one of you all have said a bad thing about Vladimir Putin tonight. Neither one of you all. And Vladimir Putin is someone who literally has killed his enemies, has killed his political opponents, has pushed them off roofs and poisoned them and all of these things. And he is the one who said that this is something you should deal with. Right. And he went on Sean Hannity and
I
quoted
did say, by the way, that I believe the first comment I made was that he was a tyrant and shouldn't be trusted.
Wait, you're drifting from...
You know what?
You're drifting with Vladimir
I give you credit. I was really talking about
This is not about Vladimir Putin. This is about voter fraud.
Say something bad about Vladimir Putin.
That is about voter fraud. But let's hear
not just
one
Paterson.
example.
I'm going to give you 5. In Paterson, New Jersey is the one.
Just 5?
No, more.
That's it?
I found a bunch.
How many votes?
Sioux City, Iowa, North Carolina, 9, 2018, Appalachia, Virginia, 2006, Miami mayor was overturned in 97, Bridgeport, Connecticut was just overturned.
Okay.
Not every ballot.
So Joe, tell me where
not every ballot.
Tell me the degree to which mail-in voting fraud was enough to change the result of a presidential election. Where is that?
I can't pronounce the name. In Michigan,
in Miami, presidential election.
But not every election is about the presidential race. Okay. We also elect people at the state, federal, and local level.
But
the point I'm trying to make is that
Trump is making this statement.
Let me finish the point.
On his own experience.
Let me finish the point. Not every ballot mailed in is fraud. But it's almost always the case where you have fraudulent ballots. It's done not just by mail ballots, but paper ballots, absentee ballots. So if the president wants to secure ballot integrity in a better way, I am 100% for this. Now, you all, last segment, were so worried about the MAGA base and how they would react to troops on the ground.
Can I just ask a clarifying question
thrilled
of you,
about this.
Joe? You said you're all for what the president wants to do, but he is saying he wants to federally. He wants the president by decree to ban mail-in voting in this entire country. Are you for that?
No idea how I was going to do that.
Okay, are you for that? Because you just said that you're for what
I'm
he
willing
wants
to
to
wait
do.
for the executive order and see if
You
it's
just
valid.
said you're for what he wants to do.
If he figures out a way to meet the requirements of the court that struck it down previously, if he figures out a way to do it, I'm for it.
He can't, though.
If he can't, then he can't. But it's a thing that I would hope, and I've actually supported the New York State legislature in doing this. I would write a check to the South Carolina legislature.
Let me ask you a
if they were
question. Are you in favor of when you turn 18, you're automatically registered to vote?
But you're acting like mail-in.
You're acting like
mail-in ballots are something universal.
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly the point. We need to make it easier for everyone to vote. And I also think we should have a voting reform in which it's just the popular vote, right? Everybody votes and we count the votes, and we should do ranked choice, right? We should make it more egalitarian, not less. But of course, MAGA and Trump and the Republicans want to make it harder to vote because they know that helps them, right? It's been said by many people on many different occasions that, if everything was fair and everybody's vote counted and everybody voted, Republicans would never win another election. They're not running on ideas, right? They're not putting forth policy ideas to make life better for Americans. They're basically just running on tax cuts for the rich and deregulating everything. Obviously, what's happening in this administration is a drive towards autocracy, which is about, by definition, as undemocratic as you can get.
Trump was wrong. It wasn't one country. You were wrong, too. It's not dozens. It's 12. 12 countries on planet Earth have 12 have universal. 22 have other ways of getting it not universal. So that's 34. That's 15% of the countries on Earth.
Joe, we also don't have universal mail-in ballots. We don't have that. So the idea that, listen, it's not 12, okay, but there are over 30 countries in the world that have mail-in and ballot voting, A. And B, to your point, Sam, Donald Trump is messing with something that his voters use, okay? 24% of Republicans used mail-in ballots in the 2024 election. That is a little bit down from 2020 when there was a pandemic, but it just goes to show that you then take those voters. Some of them are in the villages in Florida. They're in Utah where they automatically send mail-in ballots to every registered voter.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point by Abby Phillip. A lot of Republican voters, a lot of MAGA people are older, and it could be hard for them to get out of the house and get to a polling place. A lot of Republican votes are people who maybe have some kind of a disability, not to mention military people. They're overseas. They have to vote with a mail-in ballot. So it's another one of these things where it's not a real problem, but Donald Trump paints it as a problem. And then that becomes the reality to his MAGA base and all of his MAGA, talking heads. But then again, we see this happening in real time. They're never actually trying to fix things. They're actually actively breaking things and deprofessionalizing our institutions because those are a threat to the rule by force they're trying to create, where there are no checks and balances against the whims of this God King.
The real story here, it seems to me, because you've got just a CNN poll out a month ago showed Democrats 75% more enthusiastic than Republicans at 50%. So if you're talking about getting to the election poll sites, the side that has more enthusiasm is a lot more likely to get there in the first place. This is Donald Trump worried about the midterm elections and trying to set up reasons why the Republicans are going to lose. I mean, this is a two-pronged thing. We're seeing it in terms of the redistricting, and then the other part is already start to build in the excuses. I mean, that's what's going on here, because he knows he's not going to get this past the federal judge.
There is a reason that the framers of the Constitution put this in the state's hands, right? And not so long ago, this is what the Republican Party platform in 2016 said. Federalism is a cornerstone of our constitutional system. Every violation of state sovereignty by federal officials is not merely a transgression of one unit of government against another. It is an assault on the liberties of individual Americans. Now, here we are in 2025, and Donald Trump is saying the states are just vessels to do what I want them to do.
The states are a laboratory of democracy. And
okay, that's not what he's saying. He's saying
I'll tell you what
the
I'm
states.
saying.
I'm asking you about what he is saying. He is saying the states are agents for what I want.
I don't know if that's the correct
It's either
interpretation.
right or
Abby,
wrong.
not.
Is it right or is it wrong?
This is what's so insane, is that half of our government is basically, the policy is whatever Donald Trump wants it to be. And it can change and whipsaw and kaleidoscope around, and none of that matters. Like, all of these people and politicians that constitute half of our government have fallen in line behind this toddler tyrant. And it's flabbergasting to me. It's flabbergasting to me because, of course, things that we're going to get the price of eggs down. We're promising to make things better, but there's no effort to make anything better. What are they doing? They're cutting jobs. They're cutting Medicare. They're cutting services. Prices are going up. You know, they're the tax break for the rich, as they did before. What's doubly flabbergasting is that we should know better by now, right? We keep falling for the same line as though we haven't heard. I say we. I didn't believe it, but the country reelected this spectacular failure of a man making the same promises he made the first time. And states' rights is another example of this, right? I mean, that's been a long time, harping point of Republicans, is that states' rights, less federal control of things, more states' rights. Oh, except when you have a state like California that doesn't want to do something the president likes. And then in that case, well, the federal government should be able to roll in some troops and take charge of things, right? So, I mean, it's just another example of nothing they say serves anything but the interests of Donald Trump. And I think it's always been a disingenuous game of selective reasoning that favored the wealthy in this country. But now it has, that focus has zeroed in to an individual in the White House. And it's difficult to get your head around. And what Sam Seder says, he's spot on. Like he said, Trump and the Republicans know they're in trouble. You know, I mean, we're the midterms. It's hard to undervalue the importance of these midterm elections. And there are a lot of, I think, valid concerns about the integrity of this upcoming election. I'm not going to start conspiracy theorizing about it being rigged, but they are certainly trying these efforts to reduce mail-in voting. I mean, that's obviously where that's coming from. And all this mid-decade gerrymandering, they're not even hiding it. They sort of bother to say, oh, this is to make things fairer, but like, it's on its face. What they're trying to do is limit people's access to vote. They'll say it's because there's fraud. There's no evidence of this, but it doesn't keep them from saying it again. A lie repeated 1,000 times becomes the truth. That's Joseph Goebbels, by the way, who said that. I don't know if you know who Joseph Goebbels was, but he was a famous propagandist for Hitler. So, and he wrote a book about it, like How I Did It. That's not the name of the book, but, you know, a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. It's a tactic that you see everywhere you look from the right now. But, you know, let me know in the comments what you think about this. I think that there are valid concerns with always trying to protect the integrity of our elections and being hyper vigilant about that. I don't think that the way to do that is to make it harder for people who work at polling places and manage elections to do their job. I think that interfering with them is getting in the way of that. Anyway, I think it's fascinating stuff. Let me know what you think in the comments.